In this two-part series, I'm going to walk you through a 7-day validation sprint to help you work out whether your next product actually has legs before you spend $1 on inventory, packaging, branding, ads, or a beautiful website that nobody buys from. So most founders learn too late that a product launch does not fail on launch day. It usually fails weeks or months earlier when you built the product without properly validating the problem. Over the next 2 videos, I'm going to show you how to test whether your audience actually has the problem you think they have, whether that problem is painful enough that they are willing to pay to solve it, and whether your product is actually the best next things to build. This could save you tens of thousands and lead to a 50K launch day. So listen up. And I'm not going to teach you this in some abstract, fluffy, just ask your audience way. I'll show you some real examples from work I've done with Thrive, a biocleaning product range that uses biotechnology to clean things like mold, drains, and bathrooms without relying on harsh traditional chemicals. So I'll show you how we think through the assumptions, how we turn those assumptions into survey questions, how you start collecting the language your audience uses so your marketing doesn't sound like you made it up in a Canva-induced panic at 11 p.m. And before we get into that, here's why you should listen to me. I've spent more than 15 years helping companies validate, launch, and grow products across New York, LA, and Australia. I've worked inside corporate innovation labs at places like Boston Consulting Group, Accenture, Deloitte, Combank, major banks, electricity companies, in mining, BHP, innovation companies, where people would spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, trying to answer one very simple question. Will people actually want this thing? And here's the secret they did not exactly shout from the rooftops. A lot of what those big corporate teams do at the start is not magic. It's structured listening. Brands with the tightest customer feedback loops win. So let's get started. So in this first video, I'm going to take you through days 1 to 3, writing down your assumptions, turning those assumptions into a survey and sending it to the right people with a strong enough incentive that they actually respond. So let's get into it. Before you spend another $1 on inventory, packaging, branding, ads, a photo shoot, or Shopify page, I want you to do this one very unsexy thing first. Validate that your audience actually has the problem you think your product solves. Because the most expensive mistake in a product launch is not bad content. It is building the wrong thing beautifully. I've seen founders spend months perfecting a product only to find out that the audience either did not understand the problem, did not care enough about the problem, or did care, but wanted a completely different solution. Or they did care, but they didn't care enough to pay to have it solved. Or they'd already developed a really good workaround and that was working for them. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the first 3 days of what I call a 7-day validation sprint. Now, it doesn't take 7 full days of work, but you do need 7 calendar days because your audience needs time to respond. So by the end of this process, you'll have a much better indicator of whether your product idea solves a real problem, whether people care enough to pay for it, and whether it is actually the best next thing to build. Because build it and they will come doesn't work. So you don't want proof, you want indicators. And this is important because validation is not about magically predicting the future, it is about reducing risk before you go all in. So day 1, write down every assumption you are making. The first thing I want you to do is open a Word doc or a Google Doc and write down every assumption you are currently making about this product. And I mean everything, because most founders do not realize how many assumptions are hiding inside a launch. You're assuming who the audience is. You are assuming what problem they have. You're assuming the problem is painful enough to pay for. You're assuming the product is right. You're assuming the price point will work. You're assuming the value proposition will make sense. You're assuming they will trust the product. Problem is, if 1 or 2 of those assumptions are wrong, the whole launch can feel like a guessing game and be a total gamble. So your day 1 task is to write down your assumptions under these headings. Product assumption. We believe customers want a natural mold remover that works without chemicals. Put down there what you think your USP or the value that you add to your audience is. Problem assumption. We believe they are worried about mold, returning toxic fumes, and cleaning products that feel unsafe around kids and pets. Audience assumption. We believe our best audience is health-conscious mums, renters, homeowners, and low-tox households. Price assumption. We believe they would pay more than supermarket mold sprays if they believed it was safer and worked longer. Trust assumption. Now, why is trust important? It is the singular most important thing with conversion. We are in a trust recession, and especially with wellness products, this is so critical. If you do not build trust, they will not buy. So what social proof does your audience need in order to trust you? So write down your trust assumption. We believe they need to see proof that it works, such as before and afters, ingredient safety, and real customer results. With a skincare brand I worked with, we wrote down that we believe this has been led by a dermatologist, before and afters, and ingredients information, as well as testimonials and user-generated content. Now, your buyer hesitation assumption, again, is super critical because if you don't understand what is making them hesitate to buy your product, then you don't know how to counter it and how to reassure them and get that sale across the line. We believe they will hesitate if they think natural cleaning means weak, slow, or not as effective. For example, with a brand like Thrive, a biocleaning brand, the assumption might be we think people want a non-toxic mold solution, but that is still too vague. The better question is, do they want it because they hate the smell of bleach? Because they are worried about kids and pets? Because the mold keeps coming back? Because they have tried everything and nothing works? Because they feel guilty spraying harsh chemicals in the bathroom? Those are very different emotional triggers, and you will not know which one matters most until you validate it. So day 2, turn those assumptions into a survey. So on day 2, you're going to take that assumption document and use your AI tool of choice to turn it into a survey. This is where AI is incredibly helpful, not because it can magically tell you whether your product will work, it cannot, but it can help you turn messy founder thinking into structured research questions. You can upload your assumption document and use a prompt like this. I'm validating a new product idea. I have uploaded a document with my assumptions about the audience, the problem, the desired outcome, the product concept, pricing, trust signals, and possible buyer hesitations. Please create a short customer survey that helps me validate or invalidate those assumptions. So keep the survey simple and clear and easy to complete in under 5 minutes. The survey should not just ask, would you buy this? This is one of the worst validation questions you can possibly ask. People are very generous in theory and they will say yes. They'd prefer to be polite than right. So they say, yes, that sounds amazing, and then completely disappear when it's time to pay. Instead, you want to ask questions that help you understand the problem underneath the product. Better questions to ask: what is the biggest frustration you have with cleaning mold? How often does this problem come up for you? What have you tried before? What did you dislike about those products? What words would you use to describe the ideal result? So the point of the survey is not to flatter your idea. The point is to test your assumptions. You're trying to find out, is the problem real? Is it urgent? Is it repeated? Are people already spending money to try to solve it? And do they trust the kind of solution you are building? Do they understand the outcome, and what language do they use when they describe the pain? Because later, that language becomes your value proposition, your product page copy, your benefit statements, your ad angles, your email subject lines, and your launch messaging, because nothing works better with a customer than using their language to hook them in. You don't want to say, here are 20 viral hooks. No, your audience's actual language to attract your audience. It is much simpler and usually much more powerful. Day 3, you're going to send the survey to your audience. And this part matters. Do not just throw it on Instagram stories and hope 3 people answer while half watching Married at First Sight. Send it properly. Email your list. DM warm customers. Post in your community. Post in Facebook groups. Ask people who like your ideal customer. Ask past buyers. Ask people who considered buying but did not. Ask people who have the problem but have not tried your brand yet, and give them a serious incentive. Not, thanks so much, your feedback means the world. Lovely, but not enough. Give them a voucher. Give them a free mini oil that you might have just released. Give the first 50 people a gift. Offer one, a bigger prize for all the people that might not meet the first 50. Make it worth their time. And in the Validation Nation audit process, this customer research step is a core part of understanding buyer hesitations, trust signals, value proposition, and what actually needs to change before a founder scales. Then give them 5 days to respond. This is why it is a 7-day sprint. You might only spend an hour setting this up, but you need to let the survey breathe. You need enough responses to see patterns. And while these responses are coming in, you are going to do the second part of validation, which is desktop research. That is what I will walk you through in part 2, because the magic happens when you combine the 2 things: what your audience tells you directly and what the broader market is already saying when nobody's listening to them. Between those 2 things, you get a much clearer picture of whether your idea has legs. Not certainty, but much better indicators than guessing. So your action steps from this video are: day 1, write down your assumptions. Day 2, turn them into a survey. Day 3, send a survey with a proper incentive and give people 5 days to respond. And in the next video, I'll show you days 4 to 7, where we use AI to do desktop research, compare it with your survey results, turn the insights into messaging, and decide whether this is actually the best next product to build.